Right now, your oven, your microwave, and your coffee maker are all quietly disagreeing about the time. You've reset every single one of them, probably more than once, and they still drift apart. It's not a fluke, and it is definitely not your fault. The real reason is hiding inside the wires behind your walls, and almost nobody knows it. Decades ago, kitchen clocks barely ever needed resetting. They were weirdly, almost perfectly accurate. That's because old clocks didn't use a computer chip at all. They counted electricity itself. Power grids pulse 60 times a second in the US, 50 in Europe. That's called line frequency. Old appliances had a tiny motor that spun in perfect lockstep with that very pulse, which meant a cheap $2 clock motor accidentally kept better time than most wristwatches, because an entire continent of engineers was quietly babysitting that pulse all day, every day. The grid's frequency wobbles constantly, speeding up a little, then slowing down a little. But engineers actually correct that drift on purpose, nudging the grid until the day's error cancels out. That trick has a name, time error correction, and it worked like a hidden autopilot for your outlet. So that ancient oven clock wasn't smart, it was just riding on someone else's precision, for free. Then everything changed, and it wasn't the clocks that changed, it was the appliances themselves. Governments pushed strict energy efficiency rules to stop appliances from wasting electricity just sitting there. The old transformer power supplies inside your appliances were reliable, but they were also power-hungry. So manufacturers swapped them for switch-mode power supplies, smaller, cheaper, and far more efficient. But those new power supplies chop the electricity into fast pulses before it reaches the clock, which means the clock can't count the grid's steady pulse anymore. That signal is simply gone. So every appliance needed a brand new heartbeat, and the cheapest option on the market won. Enter the quartz crystal oscillator, the exact same tiny part hiding inside a $5 wristwatch. Zap a sliver of quartz with electricity, and it vibrates at an incredibly exact, fixed rate. That rate is 32,768 vibrations every second, and modern clocks count each one. Sounds impressively precise, and it mostly is, but not quite. Every quartz crystal is cut with a tiny manufacturing tolerance, off by a few parts per million. That sounds microscopic, until you realize it quietly costs you real minutes every single month. Compare that to an atomic clock, accurate to within 1 second across millions of years. Your kitchen clock isn't anywhere close to that, and the gap only grows with time. And that tiny error gets dramatically worse the very moment things heat up. An oven runs scorching hot, and heat physically changes how fast a quartz crystal vibrates. So the exact same crystal, in a hot oven versus a cool fridge, drifts at different speeds. And there it is, the real answer. Every appliance is running its own slightly wrong stopwatch. Your oven's clock, your microwave's clock, and your coffee maker's clock never once talk to each other. There's no shared signal anymore, nothing correcting them. They just quietly wander apart, forever. Which is exactly how a mismatched clock turns a perfectly good dinner into a burnt one. It feels completely random, but it isn't. It's the leftover shadow of a decision made in a boardroom. Manufacturers know these clocks drift, and they built them this way anyway, because cost mattered more. There's no law, no standard, no test anywhere that says how accurate a kitchen clock must be. Because your oven's real job is cooking your food, not telling you the time. Which means there's zero market pressure to fix something that was never really the product. And twice a year, daylight saving forces you to touch every clock anyway, hiding just how far they drifted. Meanwhile, your phone and your smart speaker are almost always right, quietly synced over the internet. Kevin trusted his microwave's clock completely and set his morning alarm off it instead of his phone. That clock was 17 minutes slow, and Kevin has never once made it to work on time since. At some point, it stops being the microwave's fault and starts just being Kevin. Meanwhile, the actual power grid, the thing that used to keep clocks honest, is under more strain than ever. More solar and wind power on the grid means its frequency wobbles more than the old coal and gas grid did. So even the old trick of syncing off the wall outlet would be shakier today anyway. Which means there is no version of your kitchen left that would naturally agree on the time. There is one real fix. Appliances that quietly sync themselves over the internet or a radio time signal. But most of what's sitting on your counter right now is too cheap and too dumb to bother. So you're left doing the one job the power grid used to do completely for free. Pressing set over and over, forever, on every single appliance you happen to own. It's a strange, quiet kind of failure, precise little machines built to be imprecise on purpose. Every clock in your kitchen is really a small monument to a trade nobody ever asked you to make. We traded an entire century of grid-wide precision for a few cents of efficiency, one appliance at a time. So the next time your oven and your microwave disagree, that's not chaos, that's just progress, quietly ticking out of tune.